Ryan Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
6:37 on the Morning Majority. Major Garrett, still here, not even napping yet.
Not napping yet.
Look at him go. All those years of on the campaign trail,
That's
political
right.
reporting coming to his service this morning early.
A ready cup of coffee.
It's 6:37, and we have Eli Lake of Newsweek to talk to.
Indeed.
He's a great reporter. Should always check in with him. He's always breaking stuff. Is he on the line? Good morning, Eli.
Mary Catherine, good morning to you.
Hey, and as I always mention in his introduction, he is a great griller.
A great griller.
A great griller. And this winter being so mild, I wonder why I haven't seen more steaks from you, Eli, lately.
You can have me down at the Freedom Compound.
Yeah, I'll come visit. All right, so tell me a little bit about Iraq. As soon as we leave the premises, Maliki starts arresting Sunni opposition. Now we've got a lot of violence, much of which Al-Qaeda in Iraq claims credit for. And now we've got calls for a new election from the Shiites in parliament. How big is this political crisis, and where is it heading?
This is pretty big, and if they can't put things back in the bottle through a kind of unity conference with all the major political factions represented, there's still hope for that. But if that doesn't happen, I mean, you could see Iraq return to like 2006, and a lot of the sacrifices of the U.S. military, especially since the surge, will appear to have been squandered.
And Eli, could it even be worse than 2006 because there'll be no, I don't want to say moderating effect, but a controlling effect or disciplining effect of U.S. military personnel there, that the Iraqis themselves will find themselves responding to the sectarian violence in ever-increasing retaliatory actions?
I mean, it's hard to imagine things getting worse than 2006, but I suppose, yes. I mean, if there's a perception that the military, if there are about 9 functional divisions in the Iraqi military, and if the commanders of those divisions decide that they are better off being loyal to the ethnic political parties that they're affiliated with than the institution of the military itself, then Iraq becomes Lebanon in the 1970s.
Well, so you've been to Iraq. I've been to Iraq once. It was mostly just on Camp Freedom and hanging out with the troops. But I did get to meet some Iraqi military officers, sort of cream of the crop, and they spoke about their duty, saying, I have a duty to all of the different sects in Iraq. And I was sort of encouraged by that, but I don't know how widespread that is. I'm sure you know more about it than I do. How much of that do you reckon there is in the rank and file?
I have a lot of faith in the Iraqi military. I mean, I've been embedded with them and with MIT teams and so forth, and I have to say that that's the perception. And I would say of all the institutions in Iraq, the strongest institution is the military because they fought alongside the U.S. military. But if things really do get to the point where it looks like it's going to be a civil war and you can't bet on Baghdad, and there's perceptions of grave injustices, by their, and sectarian injustices and so forth, I could see a scenario where elements of the military decided to sort of side with, political parties as opposed to the state itself. Even though I think that the military is very far along. It's a nightmare scenario, but if things get out of hand, the other thing that you're going to see is the rise of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, which can mount terrible terrorist attacks now, but doesn't control territory. In 2005 and 2006, they controlled most of western Iraq and the Anbar provinces. That I don't think will happen right away because a lot of blood was spilled, but if there's a perception that you can't count on, that Sunnis can't count on a Shia government or a Shia military for protection, then that is going to play right into the hands of other ethnic militias and the dissolution of the country.
And Eli, it seems that the essence of the political difficulty is the unwillingness or inability to share power. And there are still those in the Obama administration who say somewhat patiently, well, this is just a long, grinding process of a maturation politically in Iraq, and it's going to take time, but the chances still are better than worse that they'll see that they need to mature, they need to share power, and once sharing power, many of these divisions will subside. Do you believe that, and do you think that's a prospect we should look at with any degree of hope in 2012?
I think the problem right now is Maliki. He is making a power grab. He also is paranoid about the prospect of a coup. And I think that the Obama administration did not have to be involved in Iraqi affairs the way that General Petraeus and Ambassador Ryan Crocker were involved in Iraqi affairs in 2008. They could have said, listen, we're here. We're going to be here. We want to have 10,000 troops in the country in a very, very behind-the-scenes capacity, mainly for training, mainly for counterterrorism, and really taking a back seat. But just that presence of troops there, now it's complicated because the politics of the troops staying were so fraught, but just having 10,000 troops in Iraq would have been a lot of it, would have provided a lot of assurances, including to Maliki against coups, including to the minorities against what you're seeing now, and I think really would have done a world of good in terms of keeping people relatively in the position of trying to work together.
And what do Iran and other enemies in the region getting out of this whole falling apart going on here, and sort of, what danger does it face? What does it cause for us here at home?
Well, Iran's interest, I think, is always to have a weakened, divided Iraq so it's something of a vassal state. And so they have to be very excited about the manner in which the United States completed a kind of total withdrawal. And I think that I think it's bad in terms of America's, reputation in the Middle East as a country that, should not be trifled with. And as I said, a lot of the real benefits that were gained in Iraq, especially after the surge, are potentially could be unraveled. I hope it doesn't work. I hope that the politicians kind of come to their senses and stop all this, but it doesn't look like that now.
All right, one quick last question. What was the top politically significant foreign policy event of the year that maybe affected Obama's administration?
I'm not going to cheat here, but I'm going to say this. You're seeing the unraveling of the U.S.-Pakistan relationship, the U.S.-Egyptian relationship, and as a result of that, the U.S. relationship in a lot of places, including even with the closest ally in the region, which is Saudi Arabia, it's changing significantly. And so 2011 was the year that America's traditional client relationship in the Middle East became significantly upset and changed significantly. And I think that that's going to have repercussions for, generations.
All right, so fasten your seatbelts.